From the beginning, Liam Carter had been the reserved one. Back when he was in high school, he kept his head down and was immersed in law books, while other students were laughing, gossiping, and ruling the hallways. His peers made fun of him by calling him freak and loser. Why don't you say something? But Liam did not respond at any point. The acute intellect of his just absorbed their malice, quietly documenting every insult, every push, and every act of humiliation that they committed against him. Which one of these is the worst? It was the star quarterback Jason Cole and his devoted admirers who were there. Their actions made Liam's life a living nightmare, including tripping him in the cafeteria, taking his papers, and even vandalizing his locker with hateful graffiti messages. But Liam never really put up a fight. Not due of his lack of strength, but rather because he was waiting. 10 years later, Jason Cole boldly entered the courtroom, exuding the same level of self-assurance as before. And very publicized DUI case, which was his third violation, but his family's wealth and connections had always been able to rescue him in the past. With a sneer on his face, his attorney gave him the assurance, "Don't worry, Judge Reynolds is a pushover." Following that, the doors to the courtroom opened. According to the announcement made by the bailiff, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Liam Carter." It was as if Jason's blood had frozen. It was the same calm child that he had tortured 10 years before, and there he was, dressed in flowing black uniforms. Only at this moment did Liam's penetrating look carry the weight of complete and utter power. As Jason came to the conclusion that this was the judge who would determine his destiny, the grin that had been on his face suddenly disappeared. The trial took place rather quickly. When the prosecution presented the evidence, Liam listened without showing any emotion. The evidence included Jason's reckless driving, his previous infractions, and the privileged leniency that he had always enjoyed. After everything was finished, Liam adjusted his spectacles, which were the same ones that Jason had knocked off his face in the past, and then he spoke for the first time in a voice that reverberated throughout the courtroom, which was completely quiet. "You have lived your whole life under the impression that regulations do not apply to you, Mr. Cole. This day, you will discover the opposite." The gavel was brought down. It was 6 months in the county jail. License was taken away. The punishment will be even harsher if I ever get the opportunity to see you in my courtroom again. Jason's face became completely colorless as the bailiff escorted him away from the scene. There was a throng of reporters waiting outside, anxious to get their hands on the story. On the other hand, Liam Carter merely strolled by them with a sliver of a grin on his lips. When everything was said and done, justice was best served cold. After a number of years had passed, Liam's reputation as the most uncompromising and impartial judge in the state became legendary. And every once in a while, when another haughty defendant attempted to charm or intimidate their way out of repercussions, he would go back to the bullies who had taught him one of the most important lessons: those who keep to themselves. At all times, they are monitoring. There will come a day when they will have the last say. While sitting in his cell, Jason Cole was mentally going over the proceedings of the trial. The question is, how did he not identify Liam Carter earlier? After graduating from high school, the shy and underweight young man was now a powerful judge, one who had just wrecked his future with a single decision. Something, however, did not make sense. Liam had been excessively reserved and well prepared, almost as if he had been anticipating this very moment all along. A former classmate named Mark Riley, who is now a journalist, showed up as a guest at that moment. As Mark pushed a folder through the bars, he remarked to Jason, "Jason, you have no idea what you've stepped into." Within were newspaper articles, court paperwork, and a solitary incriminating photograph, a young Liam Carter, battered and wounded, standing outside the principal's office on the day that Jason had planned his most humiliating humiliation. The picture, however, had an incorrect date on it, mainly due to the fact that the records indicate that Liam had not even been registered in school on that particular day. A mystery was kept by Liam Carter. The kid that Jason had bullied in high school was not this person. His identical twin brother was he. After the bullying grew intolerable, the real Liam Carter had moved to a different school. But his brother, Ethan, who was the more intelligent, more icy, and far more vindictive of the two, had taken his place, and he had been quietly suffering through the pain while methodically recording every act of brutality. Following that, he had waited for a while. Courses in law. Exam for the bar. This moment marks the culmination of a meteoric ascension through the court system at this very time. An appeal was submitted by Jason's attorney, who claimed of prejudice. As soon as the request was brought before higher courts, however, every single piece of evidence magically disappeared. A number of witnesses altered their accounts. The surveillance film that was taken on the night that Jason was arrested was lost. A tip from an unknown source led detectives to Jason's concealed offshore accounts, which provided evidence of bribery, fraud, and offenses that were far more serious than a driving under the influence. Jason didn't really comprehend the situation until he was given a sentence of 10 years in federal prison. The topic at hand was not limited to high school. It was a kind of punishment. After a number of years, Judge Liam Carter, often known as Ethan, retired in a state of peaceful luxury, his reputation unshakable. In the end, nobody ever found out the truth. Also, what about the genuine Liam? He had relocated to a foreign country and was leading a tranquil existence, completely oblivious to the retribution that his brother had exacted in his name. Due to the fact that certain debts are not paid in court, in complete secrecy, they be compensated. Jason Cole was serving his sentence for 3 years when he received a letter that did not include a return address. The envelope was clean, and the handwriting was accurate. It was foreign, but nonetheless oddly suggestive of something that he was unable to identify. One page of paper was found within the package. Mr. Jason, I am aware of what had occurred to you. I'm sorry that things have transpired in this manner. I have never desired retribution. I'd simply want to forget about it. I am Liam Carter. The hands of Jason trembled. Such a thing was not feasible. It turned out that the judge who had ruined him was the same Liam that he had known and had abused. He was, wasn't he? Then, almost as an afterthought, the following was scribbled at the very bottom of the page. Peace. Say hello to my brother for me, a secret revealed by the warden. Suddenly, the warden of the jail, who was known to be a harsh person with a reputation for being cruel, developed an interest in Jason. In addition to cell searches, a transfer to a more risky block that cannot be explained. He was besieged by convicts, but the guards chose to ignore the situation. As Jason was recovering from yet another beating in solitary confinement, the warden made an appearance outside of his cell one night. You really don't remember me, do you? The warden mumbled something. When I was in homeroom, I was the middle child who sat behind Liam. You stuffed him inside a locker for no other reason than the fact that you gave him a pencil. Jason's blood became ice cold. As he spoke, the warden adjusted his tie and added, It's funny how life works. It is no longer necessary for Judge Carter to do anything at this point. Your actions are still fresh in our minds. Jason was left in the dark, both literally and metaphorically, as he walked away from him. The years went by. The appeals that Jason made were unsuccessful. His relatives did not accept him. He had lost his once chiseled face, and his eyes had become hollow. A decision to deny his release was made by the board on the day of his parole hearing. Unrepentant was the name they gave him. A danger to society, Although he was being brought back to his cell by security personnel, Jason got a glimpse of a familiar face in the visitor's area. It was a guy dressed in an expensive suit who was observing him with eyes that were calm and cunning. This is Judge Liam Carter. Aside from no. The man's grin was distinct from others, less warm. After that, Jason had an epiphany. It's Ethan. However, the brother who had been responsible for his downfall was not yet finished. The career of Judge Liam Carter seemed to be thriving from the outside. The phrase unshakable integrity came to be associated with him, particularly when he presided over cases that included bullies, athletes who were corrupt, and privileged elites. When it came to the reason why so many of his defendants were sent to that specific jail, nobody questioned it. The warden's little grin, which conveyed a sense of contentment, was never observed by anybody, even when another one came. In the meanwhile, the real Liam Carter was living a peaceful life in another nation, tending to a little bookshop. He was completely unaware of anything that was going on. There was a client who came in one day. A guy has the face of Liam, but with more pointed features. "Hello, brother," Ethan remarked as he handed a book over the counter where they were sitting. "I brought you a gift. What is the title?" "The Art of War. Should Ethan's vengeance go any farther than it already has?" Alternatively, should the real Liam ultimately come to know the truth, and then be forced to make a decision between compassion and justice? Please tell me where I should go next with it.